Hi, friends. This is the Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust podcast, where we will talk about all things Jesus and, I bet you guessed it, Disney. Together, we'll discover how the whole world of Disney can point us to the creativity, joy, and love of God, and why Disney can be a part of your family's legacy for years and years to come. For our family, God often shows up and reveals new things about himself to us through the Disney movies we watch on a Friday movie night, trips we take to Disney World together, and just in normal everyday conversations about life. And I know he can do the same for you. No matter where you are at in your faith journey, you've got a friend in me here at Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust. Now, for today's episode. Welcome back, friends, to Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust, and thank you so much for tuning in to part 2 of my conversation with my dear friend Becca about Disney's live-action story, The Little Mermaid. Honestly, I hated to break this conversation up because when we were sitting down to record it, honestly, it flowed so smoothly, and we talked very passionately for 2 hours straight about how much we both adored this movie. But even now, as I watch it, like again and again and again and again, because let's be honest, both me and my daughter are obsessed, there are things that I noticed that I missed when I watched it in theaters. And I saw it twice in theaters, y'all. Some things that honestly feel quite significant to me. The first being a difference between the animated and the live action. In the animated original movie, Ariel had been going up to the surface frequently. Like, she had been visiting, like showing Scuttle all of her human treasures. Like, that wasn't the first time she'd been to the surface when she saw Prince Eric. But in the live action, I thought it was super interesting that the first time she went up to the surface was the night of the shipwreck. Like, it was this almost like this climax moment of like, she's been wondering and curious about this human world, like hearing about it, hearing stories, but she had never really experienced it yet. And so it was like almost this like climax moment. And oh my gosh, like the build up for it when she's swimming up, I just thought it was so well done. She was just intrigued with life above the surface in the human world, but they made it seem as if she had never been up there. And so that's why, like, the moment her hand makes contact with the air and she came above the surface, it just felt so significant. And I just really loved that slight change they made. Another thing they mentioned in the live action is that Ariel, King Triton alludes to how Ariel is just like her mother, intrigued with humans. And I thought that was a really interesting call out that they made in the live action, which is, it's interesting because Ariel's mother was killed by humans. So it's as if Triton feels like this is a really reckless thing to have curiosity about humans or about other worlds other than your own. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing that they wanted to make obvious in the live action. This is a minor, small thing. And maybe it's because I'm a bit of a dog lover, but I just love the little detail when Ariel is saving everyone from the shipwreck. Or she's not saving everyone. She's just kind of watching, trying to figure out what's happening. She helps save Max, Prince Eric's dog, when he goes overboard. And I just loved that. It showed just more of Ariel's kindness. And throughout the whole movie, really, Ariel and Max have this like cute connection, which a lot of people would say that if your dog likes someone, that's a green flag in a relationship, and vice versa. If your animal does not like someone, and I'm not going to make it a general sweeping statement, but in most cases, it could be seen as a red flag. So I just thought it was really cute that Ariel and Max had this connection. And also, P.S., little personal touch, my dog, the golden retriever, he lives with my mom in Minnesota now, but I named him Max, and I can't confirm or deny that it's because of Prince Eric's dog, Max. So that's another thing. Becca and I will talk a little bit more about this next thing and the things that Ariel and Prince Eric have in common. And we both mentioned how much we like that, and we'll talk about that more in the episode. But I just can't mention enough how much I love that their relationship like actually had substance, and they had things in common, like worldviews in common interests, and all of that. It wasn't just a physical attraction, and I really appreciated that. like Ariel's grotto of treasures where she sings part of your world, like they intentionally made it to look so similar to Eric's library of treasures from his voyages. And it was just cool to watch some of the behind the scenes, after seeing the movie, watching the behind the scenes to see how the producers very much did that on purpose to kind of make it something else they had in common, to make both of those spaces that meant so much to these characters appear very similar. So it's as if Ariel felt that Eric's special safe was like a safe place for her and a comfort to her almost as she was navigating a new life on land. It also just, to me, just showed how their connection and bond was shared over their like interest and their just general openness to other cultures. Like like it's almost like a good way to describe it, or a way that I thought to describe it, was just their humility. To me, it just comes across as humility to learn from other people different from you, and their humility to learn about Ariel learning about other worlds and Eric wanting to learn about other cultures. Like they both have this like deep humility in common. And that just points me to the humility. When I'm watching it, I'm seeing the humility and openness of Jesus, who was only ever seen spending time with those who were different than him, or those who were different than other people in society, who were considered outcasts or sinners or the rejected or the marginalized people of that day. Like those are the people Jesus hung out with. Those are the people Jesus said, like, come be my disciple, come follow me, and let's do life together. So he teaches us so much about being open to different people, people who are different from us, and having humility to be open and loving to anyone who we cross paths with. So I just loved the humanity and depth they added to these characters. Another thing, I know there's so many, I'm like, another thing, but honestly, guys, there's just so much to love about this movie. And I won't go into too much more detail, but there are a couple more things that since I've watched it in theaters and I've been watching it at home, want to call out. So when Ariel is lost back in the sea after the whole shindig with Ursula goes down, and Eric wants to set out to find her, his mother comes to him and recognizes that Ariel was real the whole time and that their feelings for each other were very real. But it just wouldn't work because they were from two different worlds. Like you're not meant to be together, you're too different. And I mean, you hear this all the time in real life, right? People doubting relationships working because people are from different worlds or from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, different cultures, different backgrounds, whatever, you have it. So it challenges us to really think about our own biases and realize that love truly does conquer so much, and it can be a bridge of sorts in so many ways if we let it. So, which you see in this movie, and that's what ends up happening, is that Eric and Ariel's love ends up being this bridge between the two worlds. Okay, the last thing I'll mention before diving into part 2 of my conversation with Becca is this. When Ariel is up at the surface, and she's seeing Prince Eric on his ship for the first time, she's watching closely how Eric steers the ship. Like when the shipwreck's going down and he's trying to save his men, Ariel is watching closely to see how he steers the ship to try and save his crew from the storm. And I didn't notice this until my friend Mallory and I were talking about the movie after the fact. When it is Ariel's turn to step up and save everyone at the end of the movie from Ursula during the storm, she has learned from Eric how to steer the ship. And so she crawls her way up and turns the wheel like she had seen Prince Eric do in the beginning, and ends up saving everyone by destroying Ursula. And I mean, in the animated, it was all Eric. You know, he was the hero and, oh, so romantic and all that, and that's great. But I love how they created a modern twist on the story and let Ariel be the one who learned what needed to be done, and she found the grit to save herself, her father, and the man she loves. And I just, love that. And we'll talk more about that in the episode. So those are just some of my own thoughts after watching the movie back. So let's dive right back into my conversation with Becca about The Little Mermaid. okay, this is switching gears from parenting. Unless you have anything more to say about it being a parenting movie. I mean, we could talk about that for hours.
I could go back to it, but Little Mermaid is a parenting movie.
It really is. But one of the things that we alluded to at the beginning of the episode, but was the relationship development, specifically between Eric and Ariel. How in the live action, I really don't feel like it was just a physical attraction. Like I think they really gave them a lot in common in that they had this like he wanted to be different and she wanted to be different and their parents didn't understand and they had this like bond of like understanding each other and they also so like in the animated version, correct me if I'm wrong, I should have probably gone back and watched this week, but really? I actually did try with the boys for research. I actually did try with the boys. I showed them the preview and they're like, nah. Liam actually said, and I quote, "That looks sad like Nemo." Oh,
and I mean, he's not fully wrong, and so I didn't push it. But correct me if I'm wrong. Like when Ariel has legs and they're riding in the carriage and she takes the reins and she cracks them and they go really fast. Doesn't Eric like jerk them back and stop? I'm pretty sure he takes them back and like stops.
How does that end? How does that end? I don't remember now. Okay, I don't remember. I don't know if I've ever thought about that.
Okay. It does not end like it does in the live action, though, because in the live action, he is like, he kind of just looks at her like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
Here we go.
And then like they stop it because there are sheep, right?
Yeah, that didn't happen in the animation.
That doesn't happen but he doesn't like jerk the reins from her.
Right.
He's I just really appreciated that.
He's like, I'm along for the ride.
I'm just here for this,
like,
whatever this is. I don't know. I just appreciated that.
I don't know. I just liked that it was more like, and also just even like, so in the animated, I could be wrong because I haven't seen it in a few months, but it felt like her obsession. I love that it's just
a few months for you. Right? It's definitely years for me.
I mean, because I have a 3-year-old daughter. You have to remember, like I have a daughter now who's like obsessed with all things princess, and her Nana is showing her all the original Disney movies, which I have not vetted all of them yet, and I'm like, but Mom, Ursula is literally her least favorite villain of all time, and she still has nightmares about it, but it's fine. Because we talk about how we don't have to have any fear. So it's a good learning lesson, too.
It is.
But anyway, what was I saying?
But also, Ursula is crazy in the original.
She is wild. And in the live action, she was terrifying. I was scared of her. I was actually scared of Vanessa. Vanessa's, like, evil laugh.
Oh.
Her, like, you're too late. But anyway, so in the animated, it felt like Ariel's obsession really was with him, even though she didn't know him. Like, her obsession was with, I love him. She's like, I love him. Yeah. But I feel like maybe it was subtle, but for me, it was really, like, cool to see how her obsession was with the different world. Like, she obviously, like, liked him, but she wanted the different life, the different world. Like, she wanted to know what land was about, and he was obviously a part of that. But I feel like the animated, it was like, oh no, I need to give up everything because I love him. Right. And I'm like, you know what? Love is sacrifice. I get that. But also, like, I really appreciated the live action, her not giving up all of that for a guy, but being like, I want to know what humans are like, not just.
Yeah. I feel like, sorry, that's squeezing my head.
No, you do have to get a callus with the ears. It's a thing.
I don't have a Disney callus. No. I don't have an ear callus yet.
No. That's my life goal, is to get you a Disney ear callus.
Just took a weird turn.
It does take a while.
Just took a weird turn. I'm okay with it, but I feel like in the live action, you got to actually see like a development of relationship.
Yes.
Because like, I don't feel like she was trying to save when the storm comes. She wasn't trying to save them because she was in love. It was because they were people and they would have died without.
Right. It was just a good thing to do.
And she tells her dad that they would have died.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, well,
one less human to worry about.
One less, who cares?
Yeah.
Essentially, like loss of life, meh.
Yeah.
That's not life that matters to us.
Yeah, but she just was like, this is the right thing to do.
But she was doing the right thing. And so then when she sees Eric, I don't feel like it's a smitten, like immediate I think it's like I'm face to face with this like person.
With a human.
Who's also a man, but like also
very attractive,
handsome
man. And I saved him, and I think he's whatever. She definitely did have a crush.
Sure.
But I didn't feel like it was like.
It didn't feel like that was the driving force.
Behind everything.
Was just this like blind, unadulterated, sappy teenage love. Like that kind of obsessive crush love.
Right.
It didn't feel like that.
Mm-hmm. It felt like, it felt like more like about her wanting to see what humans were like, what life on land was like, a life different than what she had always known.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Which was really nice. Okay. The last thing on our board is feminism. Which I said, this is going to be the most woke Disney podcast.
Really knocking it out of the park over here.
Not really, but all I meant to say, I'm being a little bit cheeky about it, obviously. Well, but all I meant to say was like the additions they made with like this, like her stealing her voice back. Like she fought for her voice back.
Yeah.
In the animated, it just drops in front of her and it just kind of comes back to her. She ran all the way up.
And she wrestled her.
She wrestled
her and like ripped it off of her neck.
Yes. And smashed it. And I'm like, yes.
And then she used her words and her voice to talk to Eric and explain what was up. Yeah. Not just like, it wasn't just magically fine. Like there was...
She was like, she bewitched you, or she said something. She said something to him, like, and it's just, oh man,
yeah. Wow. I loved,
and she saved them all.
I loved that. I loved that she's the one who takes Ursula out.
Yeah,
like she climbs up there, she turns that wheel. Like
she takes her, like she saves, because at that point
she becomes.
At that point,
hero.
her dad was gone. King Triton was gone for a while. So she saves Eric, she saves herself, and she saves her dad. Mm-hmm. And
also arguably the ocean from Ursula.
Right. The world.
The world. From the crazy sea witch.
So she was the heroine. Mm-hmm. Which kind of brings us full circle, honestly, back to our conversation, which you talked about your problem with Disney movies.
Yes.
In the first place is that women always have to be the damsel in distress, but she was the heroine.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah. What's your take on that? We need more like we need more movies like this.
More like that, because it also just wasn't like, I don't know. I just think we need more. It's okay to have gumption and like
it's okay to be gritty.
It's okay to be gritty and fight for the right things and like make a mistake and then fight to correct it. Right. Because like if that's not real life, I don't know what is. Right. We're like, how many times can I have I made a mistake and then had to like humble myself
yes,
and like go back and correct it, but also be forceful in correcting it, or like I don't know, because like literally Ursula had all this crazy power because of Ariel,
right?
Like
she's like, oh, this is all my fault in the first place,
like oh,
and she's like found it within herself to
right.
I gotta do what I can to make this right.
I also just appreciated that she was so loyal to, that Ariel was loyal to herself.
Yes.
And to, I felt like she was loyal to doing the right thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, I guess could be argued because, like, she went against her dad, whatever. But, like, it felt like she was loyal to making the best decision she could in the situation she was in at whatever time that was. Yeah. Which I also feel like is honoring to a teenage brain also. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Like, she also comes back around because she disobeys her dad. But at the end, when she's giving the trident back to him, she stays below, like, she stays under the sea. Like, she stays as a mermaid. Even though you can tell, like, she's, like, torn, she stays.
Yeah.
Until her dad sees her, like, longing to go join Eric again. Like, she stays because she feels that, like, that loyalty or whatever. She recognizes that her dad, she said, you gave your life for me. Right. Like, she recognizes that he did that and said, oh, like, so she has even, like, a redemption moment with her dad too, to where he can, that kind of repairs their relationship.
So he can then release her later.
So he can then release her without any breakdown in their relationship. I know, honestly.
I know. I just really appreciated that it righted what I consider to be a wrong, and that the princess is always the damsel in distress, just a pretty face and
doesn't
a pretty voice.
Doesn't have any hand in their
ending.
But
doesn't have any depth, doesn't have any, I think later Disney movies, more recent, probably in the last 10 or 15 years, look a little different than that. I think the first one I remember is Tangled was the first one.
Yeah.
Where the heroine was like, okay,
yeah.
okay, I see you,
you could tell they're you're doing something different.
Right. But you still have all these classic stories that are not just American stories either. There are versions of Cinderella in every culture. There are versions of mermaids in every culture, mermaids. I think some of the earliest, your history friend is coming out now. I think some of the earliest versions of mermaids are South African, vocal folktales that had been told for thousands of years.
So these are old stories.
Well, I mean, arguably, I think most of them come from Hans Christian Andersen and the Grimms, but those were people that were extensively traveled to collect all of these folk tales, which we could have that whole conversation too.
Yeah. But they're old enough Disney movies now that some of them need retold.
They need a little revamp.
Yeah. For what we know, what we've learned, where we're at now. I've just heard a lot of people loving loving Halle Bailey as Ariel. And honestly, I think, I've talked about it with another friend before, about just how important it is to have Black princesses.
Yeah.
Hello, the first however many, how many were there before Tiana that were Black? Or that were different.
None, right?
That weren't white, blonde.
Yeah.
Or
fair-skinned.
Even we had Jasmine, obviously, which I love Jasmine too. But I remember when Tiana came out, that was big deal, and I'm how has it taken us so long? How long has it taken us so long?
Right.
And then it was a while. So then when they made the choice of having Halle be Ariel, I'm I felt like I saw overwhelmingly positive things about that choice. And it just being so, we saw firsthand when we were at Disney this last time meeting her, how significant and important that was. We were obviously excited too, but there were so many families with little girls who were so excited that Ariel looked like them.
Yeah.
Or that Ariel was, or they had a princess. Another, there was a little girl in front of us. She was really, I don't know how old she was, but she said we were waiting in line, and she was talking about meeting Ariel, and then she said, and then after we're done with Ariel, can we go see the other one like me? She was talking about Tiana.
Aww.
So they want to see, they want to meet the princesses that are like them. And I'm that is so, I don't even know a word to describe what it is, but it's just, it was really it was really cool to have Joelle in line with them, to be they should feel, we should all feel like we can see parts of ourselves in these stories, right?
Right.
We should all have that experience.
And what a privilege, and it is a privilege, that our kids have seen themselves so much depicted in TV and film. And to see the joy. I just remember when all of the, I don't know if you ever saw the little compilations of parents showing their daughters the trailer for the first time. And if you want to cry fest, go back and watch. Yeah. It was all Black families.
Yeah.
Showing their sweet babies the trailer, hey, come here and watch this. And little girls Mommy, she looks like me.
They probably weren't expecting it because
she has my hair. Like,
because Ariel
they didn't tell him. They just would show it. And
because Ariel to them is white and redhead.
Right. And I remember getting like pretty choked up about it. Like so excited for them to see a mermaid that looks like them. Yeah. And to see themselves on screen. And I don't know, it was really cool too. It was really cool to see them have the meet and greet experience at Disney, like adding in more representation, but also made me sad of like, oh yeah, there isn't a lot of this
that.
hasn't existed.
Like it made you sad too of like that, like the injustice in me rose up like, why is this just a big thing now in 2023? Like it feels behind, and like Tiana's Bayou Adventure, like I feel like it's the first ride for a princess, for a black princess, like a person of color at all having a attraction. Is that right?
Does Jasmine and Moana not have anyone?
Moana is getting one.
Okay.
Moana's getting one. Tiana's getting one. I mean, Jasmine, sort of by association, has the Aladdin like magic carpet ride, but like as far as like Tiana goes, this is the first thing Tiana's getting, and Tiana was at our meet and greet lunch, but like I feel like she's just now getting a broader like you're seeing her more places throughout the parks, and I'm kind of feeling like we got to get this going faster. Like, let's get this new Little Mermaid. Like, what can we do to get this new Ariel? Like,
yeah,
get her the exposure like she deserves.
Yeah,
because she was she was beautiful, but it just felt really significant to be there and to meet her and to like be
that
and like to be in the room with our family was obviously really excited about it, and Joelle was really excited about it because she thinks she's beautiful. She sees people she loves and knows in that. She sees similarities and so she just loves it. She thinks it's cool. But to be in the room with families that that this is a really big deal.
Their daughters are seeing themselves for the first time.
For the first time. Like these little babies are 2 and 3 years old. They don't know like the other princesses yet, and like, or they do, and they see that they're So
well, I bet that was. I'm gonna get teary if I talk too much about it. But I bet that,
Mitchell got teary about it talking about it.
I feel like also what a big deal for those parents
who
also haven't seen themselves.
Right. Taking them back to their childhood because they were like, I don't know how old they were. They may be around our age or a little bit older because they had kids in our age too. Like kind of redeeming their childhood a little bit because our Disney movies were for sure not proper representation of most of the population. It was blonde-haired white princesses for however many years. Well, I guess Snow White wasn't, but you know what I mean, like light skin.
But she was white,
Caucasian, like one.
The fairest of them all.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So you definitely like wonder if the parents were having like a little bit of like childhood moments too.
I mean, like that's just also cultural, right? Like,
right.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, white being the beauty standard across the board for everyone.
Yeah.
Is exhausting in and of itself also.
Yes.
But, yeah. I love that. I like that you guys got to go and experience that and see that and witness it firsthand. And
it was, I don't even know a right word to describe it. 'Cause cool or awesome or doesn't feel like enough.
Significant.
It felt significant. And maybe that's why I was so emotional online. Like I literally don't remember what I said to her because I'm like, what do I say to convey like I remember feeling I'm so like I told Mallory, I said, I'm so happy this Ariel is here. Like I'm so happy she's here. Like, and that's how I felt and then wanting to say to her, I don't remember even what I said. But being like, I'm just so happy about all of this, about Halle Bailey portraying it on film, about you being here. Like just like, this is right. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is appropriate and a step
Step forward.
That should have been taken much longer ago. I also really loved that we saw consent. Brought into this
that was
film.
the last thing I wanted to talk about because we cheersed to consent.
We did cheers to consent.
In
but
the
it
theater.
goes with feminism also, which I don't think is an ugly F word.
No, I love it.
I just think like...
Have you ever seen the thing where like it's the meme or whatever that's like Jesus was a feminist? And I'm like, heck yeah, he was.
Yes, and we can have a whole podcast about that later.
Yeah.
Or side discussion after.
Yeah.
But yes, I 100% disagree. He came and he gave dignity to women in a culture that was like women were property and not treated well. And
I mean, he went to the Samaritan. He went to the woman at the well. Like he waited for her.
He knew she was gonna be there. That wasn't an accident. Anyway, I just really appreciated that we saw consent added for the first time. That's like the one note I brought with myself because I was so proud.
Okay, give it to us. Yes.
So like in the original version of Kiss the Girl, it's yes, you want her, look at her, you know you do. Which also just like kind of pause, like just out of the gate. Like this is a kid's movie and we're talking about like you want her, like
yes, you want her. Look at her. Right. Like look at her physical appearance, you know you do.
Right. Because women are only objects that can be obtained.
It's possible she wants you to.
Possible she wants you to. There is one way to ask her, don't take a word, not a single word, go on and kiss the girl. That's the original. Well, in the new version, they changed it. It still starts with the semi-oogie line, like, look at her, you know you want her, look at her, you know you do. Like, ugh. Anyway, I get it. Like physical attraction's a thing, but like also like, these are children's movies. Possible she wants you to use your words, boy, and ask her if the time is right and the time is tonight, go on and kiss the girl. And I just, because like she didn't have a voice, but it wasn't like she couldn't hear or process or like communicate non-verbally.
Right.
And so we definitely.
Like she can hear you. Yeah. So ask her and she can nod.
Yes.
Or no. Or.
Right.
Shut it down, you know?
Give a little X. Yeah. Like, I don't know, a hand up.
So at this point, like you and I hooped and hollered and we held up our drinks and said, consent!
Yes. I also feel like it was like an adult showing, like, because it was like we went to an 8:30 movie on a weeknight or on a Monday.
It was like you and I and a bunch of other like Disney adults, basically.
Basically, yes. But they were so quiet. And I was just like, can we get a little like... I don't know.
Side note, do you remember how funny it was when my chair kept like making that fart noise?
Emily had the loudest chair in the whole theater.
We were in was like the reclining chairs in the Franklin Cool Springs Theater. It's really nice.
It is
like
very
the chairs
nice.
are really comfy. Like Mitchell and I went to the Spring Hill Theater and it was a classic, so it was not very nice. It was like stadium seating and I'm like, oh, I think my chair just broke. But anyway, my chair was so loud and I kept trying to move it.
It just made like tooting noises the whole time.
At like really inopportune parts. Like, and I'm like, this is a really emotional scene, but I have to shift and it would make this like... Was it loud?
Farting noise.
It felt really loud to me.
I mean, like, it was clearly, like, the chair making the noise, but it was very loud.
loud.
It felt like a comedy scene in a movie. Like,
yes. It just felt like we were in a movie within a movie. Like, watching a really emotional part and everyone's feeling in their feels. It's like, and then... like... It was so bad.
It was funny.
But anyway, yeah.
So I appreciated the consent part of this also. Like, just bringing that in, like, ask.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, how, like, problematic. There's one way to ask her. Don't take a word, not a single word. Just like going...
I just like, that's very problematic. I mean, as I'm like over here teaching consent to my almost 6-year-olds, like no means no. Like I heard him say no, I don't like that. Right. You need to stop immediately because consent it's not just between boys and girls. It's between all people.
Everybody. All humans.
All humans.
Yes, that's so good.
And so I just appreciated the consent piece, which I feel like also just plays in again to like, I guess modernizing it. But I hate even using that. I feel like it's humanizing because I feel like...
that's so good.
Because I feel like for a long time, women were objectified and not seen as humans. Mm-hmm. They were objects to be... Well,
we were property.
Like property and then like, you know, objects to be like...
be fought and won.
Yes,
won,
heart fought.
What does Jasmine say?
Hard
I'm not
fought
a
and
prize to be won. That's what Jasmine says that.
Jasmine says that. Well, and culturally within that culture, like that makes
She would have
sense
been.
also.
Yep.
But I mean, even within American culture, there's
trophy wives.
Trophy wives
being a thing.
We still have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're a trophy wife, that's okay. Like if that's who you want to be and you're cool with that, awesome. I just like there to be other options.
There's more to you than that, though.
Yeah,
there's more to you than that.
But also, like, I just think that it's important that we have options. And, like, I just think we are humanizing the female experience versus, like, you know, they're taking back all this power.
So
no,
we can hopefully
get
to a place where it's, where we can hopefully get to a place where it's just people. Like, movies, stories about people, you know. I think this was. So this redeemed some things for you.
It redeemed a lot for me. Also, I did not expect to like semi-ugly cry through the whole stinking movie. I think I cried more than you did, Em.
I mean, honestly, I think you did. I cried more after the fact.
Oh, see, I didn't cry really after, but I did have a lot of thoughts about it, and I had a lot of historical thoughts about it. And
so that's your history coming out. Like,
it is.
So I felt the movie quite honestly left me speechless. Like Mitchell asked me right after how I felt. I'm like, I didn't know. Like I was like, there was just so much. So and as I was processing through like for this episode and writing all my notes, I'm like, then I was emotional because I'm like seeing all the ties and the deeply personal ties, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was really just so good. And then meeting her too, like having like Joelle see her and be like, yes, this is so good. Aww. This is so good.
I saw a video of her holding like probably a 6 or 7 year old. She's also very petite, but this was a long-bodied child, not like young baby.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't say anything. The little girl's just clinging to her. And she finally turns around and she's like, what's her name? How old is she? And she was so dear and so sweet to this little girl she was holding. It must have been at the premiere or something at Disney. But it was just so dear. I was like, representation matters.
It's so matters.
But yeah, it definitely redeemed for me. At the end, I just was like, there it is. That's what it should be.
Right.
Like, that's what we need our kids seeing. Like, that's what I can get behind a princess movie like this.
Yeah.
I can get behind.
I mean, because it still had the heart of the original, I feel like.
Right. Also, can we just pause? Like, folktales are supposed to change and evolve over time because they're teaching, like.
Right. They're used to teach.
They're used to teach, like, lessons or.
History
not history, but like lessons to kids. And I just feel like I was like, yeah, that's the lesson we want to be teaching. It is a parable. It is essentially a parable, but like that's what we're looking for. Like that's what we want to be.
Yeah, it should change based on like what are they needing to learn? Like what are kids right now needing to learn? And yeah, totally.
So I just felt like it was like yes, relevant. Not that the old movies are not relevant.
Yeah,
but it just felt like, oh yes. It
felt needed. Like
it felt needed.
I didn't even know how much. Like at the end, I was like, yes, everything, yes. Like not that I even watched the original and was like, oh my gosh, so problematic. Like even though there were definitely some things that were, I didn't have very overwhelmingly negative feelings about the original. But watching the new one, I'm like, yes, this is great. Right,
and I like when I say like. Problematic things in the original. It's not like I hate them, but I was just like, ugh. But this was just like, yes. Like this is the story it can be.
Well, it was
these
a step
are
forward.
The strong.
It wasn't the status quo.
No, these are the strong characters. And like, I didn't feel like Eric was like.
He didn't have what's the buzzword? Toxic masculinity.
No, there wasn't toxic masculinity, but he also wasn't just a dud. Like
he had some emotional depth.
He had some emotional depth, which I appreciated.
He was vulnerable.
He was vulnerable. He was also a go-getter and like trying to help and like I don't know. It just felt like they were evenly matched.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though she was portrayed as the hero, it felt like they were evenly matched.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Neither one was saving, like, even though she did save his life, but neither one was like.
Neither was the knight in shining armor coming in to save
the really obviously more weak one.
The obviously weak or incapable one. Like I just appreciated that they were both individuals who were capable and had thoughts and talents and ideas of their own. And I'm here for that.
Right. And even when they were like walking off, getting into the boat, and like she turns around and says, like, they're like, where are you headed? She's like, to uncharted waters. It was like, they're a team going out there, respecting each other. I'm like, healthy relationship. Yes.
And also, what better way to talk about marriage? We're headed into uncharted waters.
Oh my gosh.
I mean.
Okay. So basically, to sum up what we're saying is this was a parenting and marriage movie.
Relational. It's all the things.
Also with some deeply rooted daddy issues.
Deeply rooted daddy issues.
That get worked out.
They do.
In the end. Okay.
Which is nice.
Wow.
The bow was nice.
The bow was really nice.
It was, I think that's part of what I liked about it. Like, it was a really good resolution to a really strong story, and the ending wasn't a throwaway.
Right.
Like,
even up until like the last lines and like the intentionality of, every scene. Ugh.
Because they were already married when they were going off on the boat. And I don't know.
They were going off into uncharted waters. I'm like, oh, yes. Yes, you are.
Which, that song, also incredible. But
Wild uncharted waters. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This was so fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Okay. There's 2 questions I'm going to ask every guest. You're the first one again. I'm so.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, don't think about it too much, but, and you might have already mentioned this, but I'm asking, what is your favorite Disney movie and who is your favorite Disney character? They can be different.
They are different.
They're very different questions.
Okay. So my favorite movie, even though it's crazy scary, I love not Beauty and the Beast. I love Sleeping Beauty. Why? I don't know. It's just the one I love.
You just love it.
But Aurora is not my favorite princess.
Interesting.
It's Ariel because she had red hair.
Right. You related
and
to
I'm
her.
a redhead.
And you related to her.
And I related to her and her like family story.
So what is it about Sleeping Beauty? You don't know.
What do I love about Sleeping Beauty? I don't know. I like the animation on that one, even though it's not like super different than any of the other ones. And even though Maleficent is like horrifying.
Like seriously horrifying.
Seriously horrifying.
Yes.
There's just something about that movie that
the fairies are kind of cheeky too.
The fairies are kind of cheeky and like
the scene where they're like baking like the cake and doing the birthday stuff.
Also this is interesting. I'm unpacking this as you're asking me these last 2 questions. Sorry,
you're good. Go for it, girl.
I just am realizing I think that's also maybe like the most like the like least feminism driven movie. Like she's straight up asleep and he comes into a fiery building to save her. Like
kisses her awake. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's even more extreme than like Snow White. I don't know. I just like it. I liked the music in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I do love when she's walking through the forest and she's singing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to do it because she sings very, very high.
Very, very high. Very high.
It would blow Mitchell's ears out.
But that was my favorite. That was my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Like as a kid. Okay. But my favorite princess was Ariel.
Ariel, because you related to her.
Also.
Well, which is appropriate because we just talked about the Little Mermaid for
that's right.
However long.
Also, Bambi is terribly sad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever show that to my kids.
I think I personally, the Disney fan in me has only seen Bambi like 1 or 2 times.
Because it's tragic.
I'm like, this is unnecessary. This is unnecessary.
Yes.
Yeah, Joelle has not seen that.
Feels emotionally like.
Joelle has not seen that.
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't know the lessons to pull out of that one yet.
I don't know either.
Who knows?
Yeah. So those are my 2. I'm curious, what are your 2?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
I didn't know until I said it out loud.
Okay, so I would say that there were a lot of personal ties. I would say like this new Little Mermaid is up there for me. I don't know if it's because it's fresh in my mind. I'd like ask me again in a year. But I really liked this one. I really like Frozen 2. Like honestly, up until the new Little Mermaid. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, have you seen the first one?
I didn't make it all the way through.
Okay.
I'll try again.
You need to try again. Maybe you can come over and watch it with Joelle because watching it with a 3-year-old girl is a different experience altogether. But Frozen 2, the depth of the story, the music, just all of it. There's a documentary on Disney Plus called The Making of Frozen 2, which took it over the top. I already loved it, but then I watched the documentary on Disney Plus. It's like a 4 or 5 episode series where they like talk about the making of the movie. Oh my gosh, took it up over the edge to my favorite. But so I would say this new Little Mermaid, Frozen 2, and Moana are all super tied of my favorite movies for different reasons.
I do like Moana.
Oh my gosh.
As a newer movie.
Oh my gosh. I have a lot of thoughts about Moana. I'm gonna do a whole episode about Moana.
I also really like Tangled.
Tangled was cute too. I remember when it came out, I was a senior in high school when it came out. And it did reawaken this love of Disney for me. Like I've always loved it, but there was a moment when Tangled came out and you could tell like, oh, Disney, you're doing something different.
Oh, I think that I am not a Disney expert, but I feel like that was the turn.
Yeah.
Like we need to modernize
even when you
a little
see,
bit.
like pictures of like classic princess and modern princess, like she's really the first one. Her, Tiana, and Merida all kind of came out, I think, could be wrong, but around the same time, like within a few years of each other. And so like Rapunzel and Tiana, they're even together at Disney World, like in Princess Fairy Tale Hall, like you go to meet one, you meet both.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they're kind of around the same time. Like, yeah, they were a different era, but anyway. Thank you for coming over tonight.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun. I was a little nervous for the first episode, but this was good. And you've been such a cheerleader of mine, so thank you.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for holding me accountable
you're
do
welcome.
this podcast.
Never thought I would be on a podcast, let alone a Disney podcast.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
Well, now I have.
Yes!
Lots of firsts tonight.
I had never been on a podcast, let alone recorded one, and I'm just like, you know what? The first one I'm going to be on is going to be my own.
And you were a great host.
Thank
You
you.
kept it moving.
Thank you.
You had notes.
I appreciate that. I did have
Way to
notes. Mitchell was worried I was going to be reading my notes, but
you did a great job.
We did good. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. At the end of each episode, I have a little blessing, a pixie dust prayer, if you will, that I hope encourages you as you go about your day. May you never forget that your voice, your beautiful, unique, God-given voice, is a treasure. It is worth protecting and worth fighting for. So use every bit of grit that you've got to use your voice for good and fight for the truth that you believe in. May we all be open to those different from us. May we be slow to judge and quick to listen. May we have a genuine curiosity for others' points of view, their stories, and their perspectives. May we put aside our bias, heal from our past traumas so we can see people clearly, the way God sees them. It is then that we are able to love them well. May we use our voices to fight and speak up for representation. It matters. And all of the beautiful, precious princesses and princes of the world deserve to see themselves in the stories that are created. May we realize that we don't need a prince to swoop in and save us because we have already been saved by our true Savior, Jesus. And to my babies, may I, as your mama, promise to do my best to listen, to hear you, to care about what you are saying, to seek to understand your unique point of view, to allow you to be different, to think different, to love different, to want a different life than maybe what I have all planned out for you. May I teach you how to hear from God, to follow His voice, and to teach you to trust in who He has made you to be, and to believe in who He has called you to be. To let you go to be your own person, because I think you are beautiful, unique, smart, courageous, and set apart for special things, and your voice matters. Thank you so much for tuning into the Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust podcast. I really hope this conversation brought some joy and inspiration to your day and caused you to stop and consider how Jesus is revealing Himself to you through the things that you love, even Disney. No matter where you are at in your faith journey, you've got a friend in me here at Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust. See you soon. Bye.